Hello, I'm Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to finally decorate the entire cake. We went through the whole process of making icing, making borders, baking the cake, making some roses, base icing it, and now we have the blank canvas. Now, traditionally in class we made ones with the ganache edges and that. I just want to show you a basic cake that I know you could make at home. So you're going to take your pastry bag. Now this, I'm going to put a shell border on the bottom. You could do whatever you want. If you're using a Ziploc bag or something, just do a bead border. But I just want to show you the classic shell first. When you do this, people always ask, how do you do it? Does it go on the board? Does it go on the cake? It kind of goes in that little corner there. It should be touching the cake and not just sticking on the border, but it can't just be on the cake and not on the border. I'm using a turntable. You don't have to. Also, when you base iced your cake, if you didn't get all the way down to the bottom, it's okay, because that's what the borders are for. Everything gets covered. If you don't have a turntable, you could put it on a container or a can or something like that. So I'm going to start with just a shell. And it's the same process that I did on the board. It's just a squeeze and pull. Tips at about 45 degrees, and I'm just going to do a squeeze and pull. Okay. Now, then I'm going to do the top. For the top one, I'm going to do the reverse. When you do the top, you want it to be at the edge, and this is where if your cake's not perfectly round, if your icing was off a little bit, try to cheat a little bit with the border so it looks round. I'm going to do that reverse that I showed you, and I'm just going to squeeze, and I'm just going to go the opposite way, left and then right. And as I'm going, notice with my left hand, I'm just moving the turntable. Okay, when you get good at it and good at the borders, you can just use the turntable to keep going. Okay, just like that. When you're done, you just sort of kind of fake or blend the ends in until it looks good. Now, we can put flowers on. We could put a flower in the center. We could put a flower in the side and write happy birthday. Whatever you want to do. I'm going to put one rose in the middle. And I showed you roses before. So I'm just going to make a mound like this, and then go around for the cone, and then just put in my petals. Remember, I'm going to try to make them stick out so it looks more like a rose and not so much like a cabbage. Okay, that looks great. And then now here's where take your knife, your scissors, and you cut it, and then you place it into the cake. And I sort of like press down and cut. Now, you make a little mark in the cake, and that's all right. Because now you take the 67 leaf tip, and if you're using pastry bags, or you can cut the ends, okay? If you're using a parchment bag, you can do that. And you just sort of squeeze and pull, and it makes a leaf. Okay, so you squeeze and pull, and that's what gives you a leaf. I'm going to put 4 on. You can do whatever you want. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just something fun on the top of the cake. I'm going to take my leaf bag, and I'm just going to go and do a couple of rosebuds. Now it's hard to explain. You just sort of go straight, go one side, the other side, and come back. Okay, so I kind of go left, I go right, and I come back. Again, it's one of those things you might have to stop the video and be like, what is he doing? But they make cute little rosebuds. So, like that. And then the last thing I do is take my leaf tip and go over top. And you just squeeze and pull. And it just puts little leaves on the rosebuds. And we've got a nice little cake. If you didn't want to write on it or whatever. It just looks good. Okay, so a couple other things if you wanted to try. You could do, I'll do something kind of different on this one. I just sort of like show you stuff. I won't do like a completed cake. One option is if you like to try that ruffle border. Okay. The ruffle border is a lot of fun. especially on the birthday cake. And it covers a lot on the bottom. And again, it's just, you go and you overlap. And you can see that, this is a border that you see on cakes at grocery stores. It's just the border and the overlap. If you wanted to do a bead border, you need to get a little more icing. Just so I have enough to finish. This way, if you are just using a Ziploc bag, or if you are just using some parchment paper cone, you can do a bead border. So I'm just taking off the 21 tip, putting on a 12, and now I'm just going to do the bead on the top. And I'm just going to take it and just sort of squeeze and pull and just work myself right around the cake. Okay, so if you want to try a border like that, this border could go on the top or the bottom, but it looks nice. And again, this is a border that I could pull off if I was just using a piece of parchment paper rolled up, if I was using a cone like that, or if I was using a Ziploc bag. I could definitely get something that looks like this. I could do a bead border top and bottom. Okay? Then you just kind of put the last one in there. That looks good. And then the last thing we would do is there's stuff, if you wanted to do some things on the side, you can. You can use the 104 again, and you could do some like little ruffle swags like that. You could see a little birthday cake doing that. You could even put the rosebuds on the side. Now again, this is a shorter cake. For a taller cake, you could get a little fancier. You can even do just the 21 tip again. And, you could just do like a star like that all the way around. Or you could do a shell. Do a couple of those. There's a lot of fun things you could do. Or if you switch to a small tip, like a number 3, or if you just cut a small hole, you could do dots. And you can plan out your dot patterns, or you can just sort of play. Maybe you just want to do like 2 dots, and then 1 dot, 2 dots, 1 dot, and then you would just keep doing that all the way around and just make it look really nice. The last thing is, if you do want to play around with writing or whatnot, let's say we did want to put a rose on here. So we did our cone. I'm going to do our 1, 2, 3. And again, it's all about overlapping like a real rose and going outwards. If you go inwards, they look like cabbages. Cabbages. Okay, that looks good. And then again, it's the cut. It's the go. Put that on there. And then here's where, you can have some fun. You can take and do some leaves. You can put some, I usually just do like a couple rosebuds, maybe 2 because this is a small cake. And then maybe 1 down that way. It just looks nice. And maybe even put an extra one in there, going back the other way. Whatever you want to try. And then this way you have space if you wanted to write. And writing is something you got to practice. It takes time. I use a number 2 or a number 3. And you just sort of have to, you know, kind of think it out in your head and space it. I usually practice on like paper towel. Just kind of write it in there. So that's my H. And you just kind of like, you accentuate some of the letters, so happy. And then we throw down this way. And if you want, if you have some space at the top, you want a little design, you can always do a little scroll work or something like that, just to sort of finish it off. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff you can do. Just kind of play around with it. Biggest thing I can tell you is just to have fun and practice. And I know I make it look easy with the different techniques and whatnot, but it's just a matter of practicing and trying to do things and put it down. And you can see that there are times when I pipe it, it didn't quite end up quite the way you wanted, but you just sort of keep going and make it work and just make everything look nice. But again, the biggest thing is hopefully I can get you excited to try and do this at home. I know it's not ideal not being in the lab, but if you can practice at home, even if you just get a store-bought cake and some icing and put it together and practice, that's all you can do. The more you do it, the more you pipe, the better your skills are going to get. It's just like any sport. So I wish you the best. Thanks for decorating with me here at Mr. Polk's Kitchen, and welcome back, and I hope to see you here again at Mr. Polk's Kitchen.